Mr. Kumaramangalam, the Congress party is claiming that Rozgar is going to be their big calling card in this election. You all have come out with a manifesto so far of the 5 so-called guarantees that you're giving people. And one of those guarantees is providing jobs, providing retainerships effectively to people. I want specifics now from you. It's one thing to say that the Modi government has not provided the kind of jobs that the government had claimed in 2014. Please show me how the Congress would do it. What is that one big idea that you have that will actually show that people will have jobs?
Rajdeep, I'll get to that.
Please get to that, first, sir.
I'll get to that immediately. Just give me 1 second. I just want to point out that, because there's all this data confusion now pervading where the ILO says something, the CMI says something, the PLFS says something. And so really the debate becomes about, is there unemployment? Is it an issue or not? And I'll just point to your own Mood of the Nation survey, where a simple majority said that unemployment is the most serious problem that they're facing, where a simple majority said that this government has done little to nothing for employment generation. Now, as far as how our approach differs from this government, it is mostly around the fact that all these government's measures have been supply side, and they've done very little to do demand stimulation. I'll give you just 8 things that the Congress party said that we're going to do so far. The very first is to just fill the vacant posts in the government itself, which is the low-hanging fruit, and create new posts. So we're talking about 30 lakh jobs there. We're talking about a version of the German apprenticeship program, a 1-year job to all graduates, which will give them on-the-job skilling. Talking about a district-wide startup fund that would democratize capital availability, an employment guarantee for urban areas along the lines of NREGA that we had for rural. And with stagnating rural wages, with stagnating overall real wages, we're talking about a national minimum wage of 400 rupees. We're talking about social security for gig economy workers and increasing women's participation in labor force. Any economist will tell you, if you look at all the emerging economies in the world, most of them have grown on the back of an increased participation of women in the labor force. We're reserving 50% of new central government jobs for women. Aside from this, we are doing what we have been asking this government for many years, which is do a serious demand stimulation by setting aside 1 lakh rupees per year for the woman head of the household of all poor families.
Where's the money going to come from? The maths that you all are doing. You see, the worry is that the maths that you all are doing will not match the reality on the ground. All these claims that you're making, where's the maths?
Rajdeep, we'll see the maths. We've always had the maths. When we first introduced NREGA, skeptics said it wasn't possible even then. Let me just say that this government has given a massive corporate tax cut. They have increased import duties. They've given PLI subsidies. I'm saying they've taken a particular approach. But all that approach has been supply side, and almost nothing has been on the demand side, whether it's been cutting taxes on it, cutting indirect taxes, or even cutting direct taxes. We're using a different approach. We are always on the demand side of this table, and that is because if you don't stimulate demand, you won't have private investment. Growth in private investment is what will create jobs at the end of the day. Okay. Private consumption, which is now expected to grow by 3%, was expected to grow last year by 4.4%, is the real problem today in this country.
Can I, for a moment, look at inequality? Just a minute, ma'am. We listened to both sides patiently, and I want to go back to Harsh and Santosh Mehrotra. First on inequality, because this is a contentious issue. There are those who are saying that inequality is actually coming down because more and more people are being lifted above poverty. But the World Inequality Labs recent report, has troubling news. By 2022-23, top 1% income and wealth shares are at their highest levels, 22.6 and 40.1%. India's top 1% income share is among the highest in the world. Therefore, the billionaire Raj, according to this report, is more unequal than a British colonial Raj. This is as per the World Inequality Lab report. Inequality declined post-independence till early 1980s, has skyrocketed since early 2000s. I want to make it clear, since early 2000s, not just 2014, Indian income tax system might be regressive when viewed from the lens of net wealth. 2% super tax on net wealth of 167 wealthiest families will give 0.5% of national income in revenues. Wealth tax would create fiscal space for investments in health, education, nutrition. These are some of the suggestions. I want to understand from you, Harsh, looking at that report, looking at the concerns over educated unemployed, do you have a magic solution? Do you believe that there is out there? Or do you believe that we must live with the reality across the world and it's not going to be easy to create jobs in this new world of AI, of technology, and to reduce inequalities overnight.
Just very quickly on the inequality point, Rajiv, Thomas Piketty and his co-authors have themselves put a footnote in their long paper saying that basically they have made up the data. There is actually an IMF paper, which is much more credible than the World Inequality Organization, whatever the name of this institute is, 2022 IMF paper, which says that post-food subsidy, the Gini coefficient which measures inequality, is the lowest in India since 1993. So remember, you have to, of course, we are talking about consumption inequality here, not income inequality. Now on income inequality, I once again go back to saying that you could have a lot of rich Indians today move out of Bangalore and Mumbai and go to Boston, and your inequality will fall. Will that help the Indian economy? Another way of saying that is, in India, the income tax, because the income tax is one of the so-called solutions offered here, actually begins at a multiple 2 to 3 times of the per capita income. Per capita income in India is around 2 lakhs. Income tax effectively begins around 6 lakhs in India. Whereas in the US, per capita income is $80,000, but your income tax effectively begins around $25,000. That's another way of saying that whatever little you could squeeze out from the top 1% or 5% in India is already done. If you do it anymore, there is Canada, there is Germany, the other countries ready to dangle a blue card, a green card, a permanent residence, and that will just squeeze out talent from India. What we have to do is broaden the tax base. GST has partially done that. In due course of time, rich farmers could be taxed. In due course of time, more revenue resources like privatization have to be done. But the only solution is economic growth in the long run. That is the only square which circles the whole thing here. And that requires physical investment in infrastructure and human capital. Okay. I disagree with the Congress spokesperson that a big demand side stimulus would help. We could agree, we could quibble a bit on the macro side, but basically without new infrastructure, you cannot have Make in India. Manufacturing employment, job creation is going down throughout the world because of automation. So it's about value-added India, making India a product nation. That will create wealth and value in India, which in turn leads to jobs. The government has provided a floor in terms of electrification, in terms of gas, in terms of drinking water, so that everybody has the opportunity and mobility for the next generation to go into the elite educated circles.